to the mountains high. She dared to dream to touch the sky, a spirit that ventures and a mind that strives, balancing work and adventure throughout her life. An adventurer, cancer survivor, inspirational speaker, the courageous and the bald heart. gnoTalks 2024 is privileged to have Dilshad Master.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you.
Ma'am, shall we start the interview?
Yes, of course.
Ma'am, is there any childhood memory that sparked your passion for adventure and trekking, inspiring you to seek new trails and challenges?
None at all. I hated trekking. I married into an adventure family, and my father-in-law was Colonel Narendra Bulkumar, India's most decorated soldier and mountaineer. My mother-in-law is a fantastic skier and one of the first women to graduate from the Himalayan Mountaineering Institute. My husband, of course, was the most amazing trekker, rafting guide, and I knew zero about this life. Absolutely zero. I have no childhood memories of trekking. I started to trek, my first trek was at the age of 48. So I have never had any. I only watched all this on Discovery Channel and National Geographic Channel, and it was all on television until I actually began to live it.
That's wonderful, ma'am. Moving on to the next question. As a cancer survivor and the first woman to ever lead a civilian trek to Siachen Glacier, having conquered grade 5 rapids on the Zanskar River in Ladakh, what were the challenges that you faced, and how has this courageous journey changed your outlook towards life and redefined your inner strength?
Wow. So I'll just correct you there. One never conquers nature.
Yeah.
So, you know, a lot of people say, we conquered Everest or they conquered grade 5 rapids. No, you don't conquer. You never conquer nature. Nature has allowed you to be there. And that's the most important part, and that is the graciousness of nature, and we should be filled with gratitude for being allowed to be there. You know, courage. A lot of people ask me, where did you find the courage from? And I would say, courage will come when you need it. I don't think we were all born courageous. I don't think we are all born brave. Sometimes courage comes because you have no choice. And that was my scenario. My daughter was 9 months old when I was diagnosed with cancer. I had no choice. I had to be brave. But I think the most important thing was that I was surrounded by family and friends who were equally brave. My mother, my mother-in-law, my husband, these are people who, they never felt sorry for me. And I think that was the most important thing. And I always feel that when you are in moments like this, you have to surround yourself by people who give you courage, not surround yourself by people who feel sorry for you, who feel, they feel empathy, but if they feel sympathy and if they go, oh, you poor baby, and you don't want to be surrounded by people like that. So I think that's where I got my courage from.
Ma'am, that was really inspiring. Moving on to the next question. We found your parenting style refreshingly unique. Unlike overprotective approach that many parents often use, you introduce your daughter to the thrill of adventure at an early age. Has this approach help you to strengthen the bond between you and your daughter?
I think she will not agree with you, but I think it has. I'm hoping that when she gets to be 25 and over, she will realize that. But I am a passionate believer in the fact that we are growing up a generation of children that have never experienced hardship. We are growing up a generation of children that are completely, and I will not hesitate to use the word, mollycoddled. And I think that is doing them a great disservice. Our children need to know what it's like to be cold, wet, hungry, exhausted, tired. It's very, very important, because you know what? Life is not going to mollycoddle them. Mama and Dada are not going to be there for the rest of their lives. And when life hits them, like a bolt out of the blue, and it's going to happen. It's going to happen to everybody. You are not making that child ready for what is going to come. So I think you do your child a great disservice if you're constantly trying to monitor every aspect of their life, making them comfortable. So many times my daughter will come to me, Mama, I'm hungry. I will like, go make yourself something. The instant reaction is to go, beta, main kya do, give them bread. But I'll like, no, go get yourself. She's 13 and has the bond between us. I'm not very certain of that right now. Right now she thinks Mama is the bully. At this age she thinks that, everybody's parents are like, well, I'm not every parent. And, I am getting you ready for a life after 25. And if everybody else's parents are not thinking of that, that's really their problem.
Sure, ma'am, that's so insightful. Moving on to the next question. As the Senior Vice President of National Geographic Channel and History Channel, you've always tried to bring Indian content to an international platform by guiding its Indianization. Given the rapid increase in globalization, in what ways do you think it may affect the rich essence of Indian history?
The rich essence of?
Indian history.
Indian history.
Yeah.
So that's a fantastic question you've asked. Actually, when we began to look at Indian content on National Geographic Channel and the History Channel, if I remember right, no other country National Geographic was in 144 countries at that time, and no other country had really produced Indian content the way we did. So in 2003, we came up with Mission Everest, where we tied up with the Indian Army. In 2005, we came up with Mission Udan, where we tied up with the Indian Air Force. And I think everybody in Washington thought we were crazy. But our idea was not just to bring in Indian content, but to bring in quality Indian content that showed the rest of the world what India was capable of doing. Not just in terms of programming and production, but to show them the country. So even when we did Mission Everest, even when we did Mission Udan, I think they did Mission Navy after that as well. The idea was to show parts of India. So we shot in Rajasthan, we shot in Allahabad, we shot in several small Air Force and Army stations across the country. And I think that is what proved to the rest of the world that was producing National Geographic programs that, we can also do this. Otherwise, National Geographic, and they'd never seen a reality show on National Geographic Channel, never. And my idea of bringing in the reality show was to say that let's bring it closer to the people, let's make it interactive, let's get the people involved, rather than showing them a lion in the middle of some desert, which is so far away from the rest of us that we tend not to relate to it. So I think we, in many ways, changed the course of what infotainment could be like, because we always call National Geographic Channel as an infotainment channel, information and entertainment. And I said, no, it's entertainment. I am competing with Star Plus and Z and the rest of the entertainment channels for eyeballs. So, there are too many of them. I'm entertainment. And that was how we changed. I think we changed the course of what National Geographic Channel could actually do in those days.
Ma'am, it's said that with great powers come great responsibilities, and you have done that for India and for the whole society as well. Now, moving on to the next question, the Ganga Source to Sea expedition, which you organized, highlighted the urgent need for water conservation and inspired the youth globally. In what ways do you think such expedition can spark the environmental advocacy among young people?
Really impressed with you guys. You've done your research. The Ganga Source to Sea, actually we've done this expedition 3 times now. We did it first when we had a group of women. There were 7 women from all over the world who came together to do this expedition, and they contacted our company to organize it. And yes, I was the meticulous planner for that, because that was a 55-day expedition. And I think what broke our hearts in many ways is when we did the recce, we realized that there were parts where there was no Ganga. You could actually walk, through the waters. And And then the logistics of it, like, okay, how are we going to cross this part now? And how are we going to cross this part? Okay, the motorboat is not going to go on this side. The kayaks are not going to go here. So it was an eye-opener for us, a big eye-opener for us. And I feel we've done that expedition twice over. Unfortunately, over the last, I think, 15 years of having done these 3 expeditions from source to sea, things have not improved. They have gone from bad to worse. The Ganga it just breaks my heart to say it, filthy at places and non-existent at places. It's swampy at places. And I think we just don't do enough to revive our rivers. I remember when we were at Rishikesh, we got a call saying there is a flash flood coming in. So we had a camp that was right next to the riverside. So we quickly packed up camp, but we were not fast enough. Some of our staff had to run up on trees because the water was just coming down the mountains at such a massive pace. And my husband, Saira, I think was like 4 years old at that time. We made our way up the other mountainside and we watched the river come down. And that was, I think, the first time that I saw, and certainly my daughter saw, the force of the river. And you realize that when I said to you in the beginning that you cannot conquer, I mean, there is nothing that could have stood in the path of that river. And I just feel, and while we were watching the flash flood coming in, I just felt so sad. I was like, this river has so much potential. And and not just the Ganga. I mean, I have rafted on the Brahmaputra. I have rafted on several other rivers. And Zanskar, such a beautiful river again. I just feel that we don't do enough to save our rivers. And we need to do a lot more.
That's true, ma'am. Moving on to the next question. You're known for your love for the outdoors and for exploring the unknown. However, you've also been part of shows like Mission Udan 2005 and Mission Everest 2003. How has your passion for adventure influenced your creative approach in filmmaking?
Very good question. Very good question. So again, I'll tell you, at that time, I had never been in adventure. In fact, those 2 shows really created the first spark of wanting to do what I was watching happening on television. And in fact, Mission Everest was a concept that I came up with, and it just broke my heart to watch. My production team had gone to shoot the show, and the feeds were coming in, and I'm watching all these mountains, and I'm like, why am I not there? Why am I sitting behind this stupid desk? And I think the first spark of wanting to do something like that started there. And I remember SP Tyagi sir was the chief of air staff, and I was very curious to see what a Sukhoi looks like from inside. So he invited me in, and I climbed up the ladder and I sat in the pilot's seat, and I was like, wow. So many years later, in fact, my daughter and I just had this conversation 2 weeks back, and I was like, she's very good at sport. And I said, Saira, don't you want to be an Air Force pilot? And she just looks at me and goes, no. And I was like, why not? And then I showed her photographs of me sitting in that Sukhoi. And she was like, you sat in a Sukhoi? I was like, yeah, I sat in a Sukhoi. Isn't it cool? So yeah, I think those shows definitely sparked my spirit of adventure. I was hungry for more.
That was really inspiring to know. Moving on to the next question. In one of your interviews, you have mentioned that there is no room for mistake. Even a 2-second black on air can look like a major flaw. What is it that pushes you to ensure that every detail is flawless under pressure?
Preparation. I have learned the hard way that if you walk into a meeting, or you walk into an exam, or you walk into anything in life without preparing to the last detail, things can go wrong. And especially in television, you can't have black on air. It's just unacceptable. And I think a lot of life is like that. They do say that perfectionism is the other side of narcissism. I don't agree with that. Yes, sometimes perfection has slowed me down. And over the years now, I have understood the 80-20 principle, which is basically to tell me that, look, if it's 80% right, let's just go on air. Because if you wait for everything to be 100%, things don't happen fast enough. But at the same time, you cannot prepare enough. You just have to. I used to have Excel sheets of what was called, my team used to call Dilshad's famous T-1. So if I knew that I was going to go on air at 5 p.m., I would start to work backwards from 5 p.m. for 6 months. And that's what my Excel sheets would tell me, that at this date I'm going to get my logos in, on this date I'm going to put them up on air, this date I'm going, at this time. And even after you prepare all that, things can go wrong. And I'll give you an example. We were launching Star News when it was managed by NDTV. And Vajpayee ji was the Prime Minister at that time. And the plan was that, you know, he was going to switch on the channel at 5 p.m. I was sitting far away in some uplink studio, and the whole thing had been prepared. At 4:49 we will hand him the remote, at 4:52 we will roll the tape. All of that had been planned out. And you know, at 4:59, Vajpayee will press the switch and ta-da! You know, the logo of Star News will come up and yay, we've launched the channel. I get a call, after all of this prep, I get a call at, I think, 4:30. Dilshad, I was like, what's happening? There is no battery in the remote. And I was like, what do you mean there's no battery in the remote? So he says, it's a security issue. They've taken out the batteries from the remote that is going to be handed over to the Prime Minister. I'm like, okay, so what do we do now? So you can imagine, everything that we have prepared has just gone to dust. And now we have to, the thing is that if you had not prepared that, I would never have understood what is the backup. And you know, how do we sort this problem out? How do we fix it? So that is why you prepare, because be ready to realize that something is always going to go wrong. And that is why you prepare. Even when I go on my treks, I prep. I sit with my team the day before. Where are we going? How are we going to reach this campsite? Where are we going the next campsite? What time are we expected to reach there? Is the bridge that was there last year still there, or has it been washed away? Oh, pata nahi, madam. Pata lagao. Go find out from the villagers. Otherwise, it's going to take us 3 more hours because we're going to have to go the other mountainside. So you have to prepare everything. It's a word of advice I give to all youngsters. You cannot prepare enough, because be ready for things to go wrong.
Thank you, ma'am, for that wonderful advice. Moving on to the next question. You've shared a powerful reflection on being a workaholic, working long hours, for which you were also awarded with a replica of an Oscar by one of the world's richest man, Rupert Murdoch. So in what ways has that moment shaped your life into something different, and how has this changed your perspective towards work-life balance?
So I have now come to the conclusion that there exists nothing called work-life balance, because work is part of our life and it is life balance. Let's first take that, wrap our heads around the fact that there is nothing called work-life balance. It is a balance in life. You're going to have to spend 10 hours in the office someday. You're going to have to spend 4 hours at somebody's wedding where you don't want to go someday. You're going to have to spend 6 hours doing something you don't want to do. It's all part of life. It's all part of life. So this work-life balance concept, if we can just take that out of our head and say, let me just get a balanced life, that's fine. So if I have to work, like when I go on my treks, I'm actually working 14-hour days. I'm walking for 9 to 10 hours. By the time I reach the campsite, by the time I get it all prepped up, the dinner is served, I've been on my feet for 14 hours. Now, am I looking at that as, oh my God, I've worked for 14 hours? No, that's my life. And if that's my life, well, that's how you have to treat it. So get this thing out of your head that I want a work-life balance. It does not exist. At some points in time, when you get into the work field, you will have to work for 14, 15-hour days. People expect that. Work smart. I said this and I say this again. Work smart. I used to have a lady in my office. She was part of my programming team in National Geographic and in UTV broadcasting. She was amazing. She used to come to office at 8 o'clock. 6 o'clock in the evening, she would pack her bag and she would leave. And I heard, because I always kept my cabin door open, and I heard somebody make a remark saying, half day aaj. And I stepped out and I said, you know what? Why don't you come at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning? Why don't you sit at your desk and have lunch? Why don't you not go and have coffee 5 times a day and waste all that time? Stop taking your cigarette breaks when you go down, and let's see if you can leave by 6 o'clock, because that's what she does. And I think that is discipline. That is a work balance. That is working smart. And that is what we should all be aiming for.
Ma'am, that was really a great advice. Moving on to the next question. In finding the Mercury Himalaya exploration, you have used your expertise in management and content marketing. How did your previous career shape the approach that you took out growing in this venture?
Oh, very interesting question. So something that immediately comes to mind, when I first joined Mercury Himalayan Explorations, they would take about 10 to 12 days to come up with a costing. And I'm like, why should it take so long? And then when I would see the Excel sheets, there would be no formulas, no links. So I would look at the Excel sheet and say, "Acha, ye gaadi ka kharcha itna hai, but where did you get this figure from?" "Nahi, wo to humko pata hai." So that's when I realized, all right, this isn't going to work. I said, whatever costing we do has to be a legacy costing, which means all I need to do is change 500 to 600 and everything should work out. So I created this massive Excel sheet where I linked every number, and all the people needed to do was change the costing of the taxi from this to this, change the costing of the pony from here to this number, and the costing would work out. And we started bringing out costings in 1 hour from 10 to 12 days. And so I think one of those is what I used. I used my T-1 approach again. So if we've got an expedition coming up on this day, then we work backwards to see what is it. And we used to do, like, for example, Ganga Source to see, Siachen Glacier trek. You need government permissions. There are places there where you need inner line permits. There are places there where foreigners are not allowed to go without permits. And all of that takes time. So if you don't have the T-1 approach, and if you don't start working 8 months in advance and know that, okay, by this time I have to get my permit. You know what? If I don't get my permit by this time, I'm going to have to change the route. And if you don't plan it like that, then things start to go wrong. And I think that's the approach I brought to the table. Sure. Which kind of phased the team out completely for the moment. They were like, nahi, kuch nahi hoga, ye sab theek ho jayega. I go, no. Always presume something is going to go wrong. If you start from that presumption and prepare yourself, then 9 times out of 10, keep your fingers and toes crossed that everything will work out.
Absolutely, ma'am. Moving on to the last question. As you say, switching careers in every 3 to 5 years might be beneficial. What advice would you like to give to the younger generation for seeking long-term growth and to escape this repetitive cycle of life?
So, I'm a firm believer in moving jobs every 5 years. I won't say switching careers, but I think by 5 years you have contributed enough to the company and you have learnt enough. The day you wake up in the morning and say, "Hey, I've got to go to work," is the day you should begin to think of giving in your resignation. Because if you stop learning, then boredom sets in. I was really very lucky in Star TV, and in my 22-year television career, I got to do different things. I came at a point in time in Star when television was just mushrooming. So I was given the opportunity to move from Zee Cinema to Star Plus to Star News. I went to London to launch Star Plus and Star News. Then I came back, then History Channel, National Geographic Channel, UTV. So I got an opportunity to do a lot of things, and every one of those things I was learning, just absorbing. And that's why I stuck around in that same career for that long. But there is, and I don't know if you're going to cut this out, but there is a acronym we have in television which is called SSDD, which is same shit, different day. The day you hit SSDD, and that SSDD syndrome lasts for a year, you got to start thinking, because you're battling a different fire, but it's the same thing. So sometimes the satellite's not working, sometimes something has gone wrong. It's a different fire, but it's the same feeling, that same approach to, acha, let's fix this, ye kya hua, wo. I think the day we reach that stage where you are bored, the day you reach the stage where you feel that I have nothing more to contribute and nothing more to learn, switch jobs. And that will help you. And invariably, you will switch a job to a better salary, to a better position. I didn't just switch jobs, I just switched careers. And I think India was not ready for that at that time. But today, if you see, I know so many people like me who did something for 20 years and are doing something completely unrelated. Keep your mind open to that. Just because you've taken engineering doesn't mean you have to be an engineer for the rest of your life. No, it does not mean that at all. And the universe will tell you when it's time to move. Serendipity is a beautiful word. It's a happy accident of things to happen. Marrying my husband was a happy accident. The world of adventure just opened up to me. It never existed in my 360-degree periphery ever. But I think if you keep yourself open to messages that are coming in, that's the best thing you can do. But for young people, I will tell you, don't switch careers for 2,000, 3,000 rupees. That is the stupidest thing you can do. Pick up a job. Don't look for money. Don't look for money. I'm going to say this directly to camera. Don't look for money, because if you're really good at what you do, money will come. Money will come. Pick a job that will challenge you. Pick a job that will take you out of your comfort zone. Pick a job where you're looking in, when you come in on the first day, you say, damn, I don't know anything. And that is where you will start. Your brains will begin to help you figure things out. Don't pick a job for money, because money will come. Paisa aayega. If you work hard and if you stay away from the office politics, you will do well.
Shall we move to the conclusion of the interview? In conclusion, the life of Dilshad Master depicts us that if you have the courage to fight the challenges head on and believe in yourself, believe you me, no obstacle can hold you back. Her life is the testament to the power of resilience, passion and belief. With that, we end up this inspiring interview. Thank you, ma'am, for devoting your precious time.